So let's talk about a basic overview of our biology of our brains. Now, it's helpful for you to know this because then you will understand where a lot of our cravings for food come from and why we do what we do sometimes. Now, essentially our brain has 4 parts. My hand is going to represent this. So this is sort of like a little brain, okay, facing that way. And this is an example given by Dr. Daniel Spiegel. And it's a really great tool, and if you don't get what I'm saying, you can just Google him, hand-brain model, and he'll probably do a much better job of explaining it than I am. So on my hand, you're going to see first the wrist. And this represents the old part of our brain called, well, at least the basic part, called the spinal cord. Then there's my lower palm, okay? And this represents the brainstem, which is sometimes called the reptilian brain. And it evolved very early on, and its role is to look after our basic needs and functions of life. So for example, our breathing, our heart rate, and other really important crucial bodily functions. Now my thumb, which sort of wraps around like this, is the limbic system, sometimes called the mammalian brain, which is where our short-term emotions and desires come from. Its role is to take us towards pleasure and away from pain. And finally, the fingers, which wrap over, so now we're looking at a little brain here, represent our cortex, which is the highly developed part in humans, and obviously apes as well, but more highly developed in humans, especially the frontal cortex. Now, our cortex is responsible for our rational, clear-thinking mind and problem-solving, which, isn't always there, but it's there sometimes. It allows us to plan long-term as opposed to just short-term, and be sensible about what we're doing, make decisions thoughtfully and rationally. So obviously this is the part of the brain we want to use more often. It's important to understand the environment our brains and bodies evolved in, because that'll help us understand why our brain does certain things. See, the environment that humans evolved in, there was not a lot of food. So our brain's limbic system's role was to seek high-calorie food, whether it be sweet and fatty foods, that would help us survive. And that's a good thing in that environment. Whereas our higher brain's cortex helped us remember where those foods were. It helped us problem solve and plan to find them, like maybe hunt or forage or work out different seasons and things like that. So in a harsh environment, these helped us survive and get to where we are as modern humans. So that's, 2 thumbs up, that's great, tick. But the difficulty now is our modern environments is nothing like the environments of the past. In some countries now, we have an overabundance of high calorie and often highly processed food that is low in nutrient value. Yet our brains are wired to seek that food. So the brainstem and limbic system are constantly driving us to seek and be rewarded for more and more food, or whether it be even more Facebook or more pleasure or anything like that's going to give us that little hit. But this obviously leads to excess and lots of different types of disease. So to put it simply, different parts of our brain can work together, but also some actually work against each other in some ways. So specifically, let's talk about weight loss for a second. Our higher cortex brain region, which is the long-term and rational part of the brain, says, let's eat well, let's plan our meals, and we'll lose weight. But the limbic system, which is my thumb in this model, is where our emotions, our desires and cravings come from, and often our fears as well, and can say if we're under, say, stress, for example, in an emotional state, no, we're under stress, we must survive, so go and eat some high-calorie food, which is what makes you feel a real strong craving to do so. It's your brain under threat, and it's just trying to protect you. So we can learn to override these messages from the limbic system and think more with our higher brain cortex, but the first step is we need to be aware that it's happening. We do have to learn it, as it will not come naturally to many of us. That's an important point. And that's where internal reflection and study, or a health coach, or even a psychologist may really help you. So now you understand why you have these thoughts like cravings. It's natural biology in an environment that no longer matches it. So don't judge yourself for having cravings, because we all do. But rather, now you understand this, we can try to problem solve around it. Thank you.